I know that I've imagined love before and how it could be with you. You really hurt me, baby. Really cut me, baby. How can you have a day without a night? You're the book that I have opened, and now I've got to know much more. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We are now floating in SCREAMACELICA. My name's Kevin Graham, and as I'm usually joined with, well, Russell's been here the last couple of weeks, haven't he? As Boyce, how are you getting on tonight, mate?
I'm good, Kev. I'm lucky I can remember what you look like, pal, after you've been dinging me for week upon week, mate. But no, good to have you back. I feel like, you know, there was a bit of me missing before, Kev, but it's good to have you back on, man. Back to my old self. But I know Paul did do a good job. He did do a good job.
Paul's a consummate professional, and I'm just an amateur compared to him. I ken I'm an amateur, but I get on with it.
Not at all, mate.
What I want to say, now that I'm back after my 2-week suspension, was that money is only resting in my account. I was going to give it back. It was only resting in my account. So I just want to get that out there before the court case. So it's out in the public domain. Russell, Natasha comes on. Shout out to another excellent shirt from Russell. I'm going to ask you, Russell. I'm going to ask you, Russell. Is that your shirt that you wear on Tinder? Is that your Tinder shirt? No.
You know the Tinder thing, mate. I mean, like, it's just not for me, man. Do you know? I mean, like, you know, if folk are looking through 5 pictures of me and then thinking they were going to swipe right, they're like, there's just too much to try and get your head around. Do you know what I mean? So I thought I'll give Tinder a wide berth, because I'm sure if I was on Tinder community would be giving me a wide berth as well.
Well, me and Paul came up with something, and we should have patented this, Timder, the dating app for Celtic fans.
Brilliant, Timder, I like that.
Timder.
I like that.
I think that's what we've got to get all the Celtic dads and all of that on, that their wives have left them, Timder. I still think I'd be hopeless at it, like, to be honest with you. Do you know, I've never ever I've never had a missus that I've met online. Just go right up to them, mate. It's the only way. There's Natasha. There's our first customer. Natasha, sign me up, Kev. Paul, we'll need to have a discussion after this. We'll need to get this up and running.
Natasha's just got the hearts racing of a lot of Celtic fans right
now. Aye. Hey, the subscription rate is going to go through the roof with #1 signing up there, man. Right. I've got a question to ask you, Russell.
Yes.
See, I've wandered back in here like a darts player. Like the big walk on and all of that. What would be your darts player name?
I've got one as well, but I can't.
I know. Come on, tell us what your darts player name is.
I used to say I'd be called Russell the Line Boy. Russell
the Line.
Why am I saying this, man? I shouldn't be allowed on this show, man. Honestly.
How no? It's great. That's what we want. I was always going to be Kev the Madhouse Graham, because I always used to end up in the Madhouse when I played darts for the Newmarket. I always used to end up in the Madhouse after that. So, right, we need to move on. The DeLorean's back.
Yes.
So it was back last week, but I'm driving this week. So we're going back to Edinburgh on the 2nd of April 2017. And we've just parked the DeLorean outside the Murrayfield Hotel on the Kirstoffen Road. Now, I like going to Tynecastle. It's one of my favourite stadiums to go to, even though I haven't got a really good history there. It's the only stadium I've ever been punched at and knocked on my arse outside the stadium.
Brilliant.
And when I was younger, in 1991, I got hit with a thunder flash, which was thrown from the Hearts End, and I got took round behind the guy who threw it. And the Celtic fans pelted him with pound coins that day at Tynecastle. And my dad, who does watch this show, funnily enough, picked up an absolute fortune in pound coins on the way around the track.
Thinking on his feet. I like that. Thinking on his feet, Kev.
Thinking on his feet, I go, the first time we got moved to the school end, they still parked all the supporters' coaches up at the old, it's now the Corn Exchange. And
yep.
we walked out and we turned onto, I think that is Gorgie Road actually, turned onto Gorgie Road, and I was trying to cross the road to get with other Celtic fans, and this Hearts fan ran by me and absolutely scalped me one, and I ended up under a Ford Escort. I didn't see him coming. Big. Well, you haven't seen me in real life yet, Russell. I'm like, I can get blown away. I'm like a wet paper bag, mate. I'm not a big man whatsoever. It was some dig the guy hit me, and I spun round and ended up underneath a Ford Escort, which is so that. And folks say, why do you like going to Tynecastle? I says, well, it's got history for me. Me and Tynecastle. It is
some venue though. It is. I think out of the away grounds, it is the best one, to be fair, to go to. I think the atmosphere. I think the way the stadium sort of. The way it's made, it's sort of like the fans are on the pitch almost, you know what I mean? The touchlines are right on you. A bit like Hart Lane used to be. Very similar round the outskirts of the pitch. The fans kind of that steepness sort of right on top of you. I think it creates a good atmosphere. I always like when Celtic go to Tynecastle. I always think it's a good game.
It's magic. It's great, and especially that they hate us. There's a section of them despise us with a passion, and that makes me wonder, why do they just not go and support Rangers? It's like, why, if you want to be Rangers fans, just go and be Rangers fans. Stop kidding on that you're Hearts fans. Just, if you want to behave like that, there's a club perfect for you that have got a sizable element, not just a small element which will welcome you with open arms. But you're right, Tynecastle is a cracking place. And this was a great day to go, because we were gone there to win our league, gone there to win a league title. We were gone for 6 in a row for the third time in our 100 and whatever years unbroken history, and we were going to win the league on match day 30. Now, at this point, Hearts had cut our allocation at Tynecastle, and I was lucky enough to get a ticket this day. And the way the tickets were distributed that day, AC12 would have had a field day at the Celtic office. They would have had a field day with the amount of corruption that went on with the way they tickets were allocated there. Eh? See, Russell, I've been away for 2 weeks and I've brought myself culturally up to date.
I like it, mate. I like it.
My culture's no stuck in the 90s and the early 2000s. I've brought myself right up to date. Even though I haven't watched the whole of Line of Duty yet, I'm on series 4 now. But I ken who the baddie is. The radio tells me who the baddie is, so I don't ken whether I need to watch 4, 5 and 6. But anyway, so the way the tickets were distributed for this season, the whole of this season was a disgrace. I mean, I used to do the tickets for the affiliation, and we would be getting phone calls all the time to come on the Friday night to pick up 70 tickets for Ross County, 50 tickets for this away game, 50 tickets for that away game. As soon as Brendan Rodgers turns up, they phone calls stop. Then you get to Tynecastle, and you can tell when you go to Tynecastle that day, there's guys standing outside that stadium who have no missed a game all season. And there's guys walking into that stadium who are at their first away game that season. And that utterly sickens me. And
I get you.
It's something that I hope changes, but money talks, so hopefully that will change, but never change in this modern game,
I think the flip side though is, I mean, when we look at what the game was marking, what the team was like at the time, I'll take those negatives, Kev, for what was happening on the pitch at that era. Do you know what I mean? Because it was a match that just encapsulated exactly what the master plan that Rodgers put into place was that season. And I feel like that game, stakes are high, going to go win the league, go do it in style away at Tynecastle, we'll beat them 5-0. And I just think that it's such a game that defines, the joy that was being brought to us, and then by a wonderful management team, and also I'm sure we'll get to it, but a wonderful sort of first team squad as well that was really coming of age.
Aye, let's have a wee look at the team that ran out at Tynecastle that day, because Moussa Dembele and Lee Griffiths were injured. So in goals we had Craig Gordon, right back Mikel Lustig, who was replaced by Christian Gamboa on 80 minutes. You even forget Gamboa was at our club. Simonovic, then Boyata, Boyata, who was replaced by Kaulo Toure on 87 minutes. Tierney, Armstrong, Brown, McGregor, Sinclair, Roberts. Paddy Roberts, who was replaced by Gary Mackay-Stephen on 79 minutes, and James Forrest. Now, the subs that day as well, Near Beaton. When I saw Near Beaton was on the bench that day, I think Near Beaton's been on the bench for us for a decade. I think he just permanently sits on the bench.
I don't think we've covered a game yet where Near Beaton was on the bench, Kev. Even the Cadet one, I'm sure Beaton was on the bench.
That's what it feels like. It always feels Near Beaton's on the bench for us. Logan Bailey, again, another failed Rodgers. Jack Aitchison and Abui Kouassi. That first 11, man, see when you compare that first 11 to what we've watched this season, that first 11's fantastic, yeah?
Well, I think when you're taking Dembele and Griffiths out it and you're still that strong, it speaks crazy volumes. Also, if my memory serves me right, Boyata at the back only really came into the team the second half of that season. I think it was more the Danish boy, Sviatchenko, that was playing, wasn't it? And Paulo Toure, of course, obviously got a lot of first-team football as well initially, and then faded out the team as well.
Toure was basically signed to get us into the Champions League, and he done that job because I reckon, was that the year we played in Israel? Was it Israel that year? I mean, it was him and O'Connell, was it not, the two centre-halves in Israel that night?
It may well have been. That's good memory, Kev. I think you're right. Ian O'Connell or something. I think he played both legs.
Aye, and Toure basically had a nightmare against Borussia Mönchengladbach that season,
right.
and that was the last time we really saw him. Obviously, his legs had went, but he came in and done a job, and he's still a member of Brendan Rodgers' backroom staff.
Absolutely.
There, Boyata came in that season against Albion Rovers in the Scottish Cup, and he never looked back. So after the winter break, which was a break, and we went to Dubai. I'm allowed to mention Dubai. Is that a bad word now? I think we should just keep it.
Say Dubai at that.
No. So he came in for at that game, the Albion Rovers game. I think we played that at Airdrie. Was it that game? I'm sure. The two fullbacks, Mikael Lustig, has appeared on Celtic media today, giving a message to Scott Brown.
Brilliant.
I had a tear in my eye again. I love that big fella, man. Yeah. That is a cult hero. That is a real cult hero. And obviously on the left hand side you've got Kieran Tierney, which is when you look at the two fullbacks we're sitting with now, compared to the two, that is a massive downgrade.
I agree. I think as well with Boyata, just quickly as well, I think Boyata is the definition of what we're looking for right now in a manager to do. He's come in, they look at players that are underperforming right now but still want to be there and maybe haven't shown their true abilities as of yet. But if you work hard under whoever the new manager is, and he sees something, he's going to get you to get to levels that you weren't at before. And I think Boyata is a prime example of what having a brilliant manager can do to someone, because none of us would have blinked an eyelid if Dedrick Boyata had left that summer when Rodgers took over. We have to be honest there. There's just no two ways. We would have accepted it and we wouldn't have thought twice. And by the end, we were turning down £9 million for him and things like that. So, which may be a regret, but that's a different thing altogether as well. It was
really a surprise when he came into that team for the Albion Rovers game, and Rodgers actually says it was because of his attitude. His attitude that he was in the gym, he was training hard. He was showing Rodgers that he wanted to be in that side, and we can only hope Eddie Howe can do the same. I think we can safely say it's Eddie Howe. Can we say it's Eddie Howe? Hopefully we can hope that Eddie Howe does the same. I don't think that's news to anybody that is going to be Eddie Howe, so we'll just aye. So the game itself kicks off. So in the 24th minute, we score a cracking goal. Scott Sinclair scores his first of the day. And Scott Sinclair gets the ball in front of the Tynecastle main stand.
Yep.
He plays a 1-2 with Paddy Roberts, and Sinclair bursts into the box. He takes a great left foot. He takes a great right foot touch. Then he rockets a left foot shot into the back of the net. And I'll tell you what I remember about this goal. I was in the stadium that day. We actually hit it. We actually heard it hitting the back of the net at the Celtic
Totally
end.
get it. Yep.
Now you've got 16,000 in the stadium, and we actually hear this ball hitting the back of the net. This is no down the park on a Sunday that you hear the ball hitting the back of the net.
Yeah.
This is in a football stadium, which is utterly electric. It shows you the venom he's actually hit that ball with.
Yeah, I think with that season alone with the likes of Sinclair, he was totally ruthless that year. Now I think that's been a pattern for him. I think throughout his career, when he's made a move, he's been one of those folk makes real instant impact, and then and don't get me wrong, when we got a good few years out of him, we got a couple of really good seasons numbers wise. It's unbelievable. But he certainly seems to be a confidence crisis player, Scott Sinclair. I find it quite sad at times, when you watch someone with all the ability like that he showed on the pitch that day with that goal, the right foot touch, the left foot finish that you're hearing from the other end of the ground, hit the back of the net. And then you look at a guy maybe 2.5 years later who didn't really believe he could take on a man. It was mad. It was what happened. I actually think it's quite sad stuff like that. And sports psychology is such an interesting thing in that aspect that you go, all you've done is surely increase your confidence levels by the unreal goals and assist numbers that you're getting, the both team and individual awards that you've picked up, and yet for whatever reason something happened. And I definitely think it's all in the mind with Sinclair. I felt when his performances ended up dipping in that third season of his.
Especially in the third season, but you look at that goal that he scored that day. That's so reminiscent. That's when I would think of Scott Sinclair. I think of that goal. I think of his first season. But when I was looking back at his career, when you look at the number of teams that he's played for, he started at Bristol Rovers, went to Chelsea, loan spells at Plymouth, Queen's Park Rangers, Charlton, Crystal Palace, Birmingham City and Wigan, signed for Swansea, went to Man City, and also was on loan at West Bromwich Albion and Aston Villa before he came to us. He had a bit of a nomadic career before he basically found home with us. And it's interesting this season as well that he's actually played 33 games for Preston this season, which I'm quite pleased about. So he's been a mainstay of their squad this season.
What's his numbers like? Do you know?
He scored 9 goals, 33 games, 9 goals. So
it's not bad. It's still not bad. He's not a striker, unless they're utilising him as one.
Not a striker, no.
But 9 from 33 is still, in the Championship, better than a goal every 4 games. It's no bad numbers at all for a winger, is it?
It's not bad numbers for a winger. He scored 25 goals for Celtic this season. Moussa Dembele got 32. And we had a player that loved playing with us that day. He seemed to actually get it right away. When he signed, it was a statement signing by Brendan Rodgers. It was a statement going, I'm bringing in a guy that knows how I work. And he's going to show the rest of the squad how I work. And the fact that he hit the ground running, I think it set the tone. The fact that he scored the winning goal that day at Tynecastle in the August set the tone in that season.
Yeah, I agree because it could have been a hairy start. If we didn't win that game and it was a draw first game, we're going to be going, geez, is there that much of a difference getting made here or whatever? You know what it's like. In Scottish football, when it's Celtic and Rangers, one draw, one negative result at all can lead to mass hysteria.
As we saw this season.
Yeah, well, exactly. But to be fair, there's been about 1 million examples of it this season. Do you know what I mean? So they've probably been rightfully put to the sword. Whereas I think at that point, it was so important that Rodgers got off to a win, just to keep the whole Messiah facade all just sort of keeping that bus, you could say, running. Because I think Rodgers, when he was signed, struck the fear into not only across the site but the whole country. Everyone knew, this is a dynamite appointment. And you need guys who know how they operate. And Scott Sinclair got us out of jail on his first start there, and it's no surprise that when he went back there, he went back with a spring in his step, and a man with all the confidence in the world.
3 minutes later, we're 2-0 up, and we Paddy Roberts is involved in it again. He gets the ball in the middle of the park, and Sinclair makes the run. The Hearts defenders try to play him offside, but he's a mile on. Like, Paddy Roberts lays the ball perfectly in front of him, and a right-footed shot, one-on-one with the goalkeeper, bottom corner, and that's us. That's the game virtually done at that point. But the first two goals of this game, we've seen invention and creativity that we've been lacking so much this season. That wee bit of quick thinking by two players who are on the same length, or who are on the same wavelength, who have well coached. They know what they're meant to do in the positions that they're played. And again, this goal is down to that coaching and teamwork.
I agree. I think as well. I mean, I've said it before. I think you're looking at two guys there that have got the killer instinct at that point. They've got the eye of the tiger, mate, and that's been completely lacking from this season. Nothing's done impulsively. Nothing is done impulsively. Now, whilst we've criticised Neil Lennon on various, the ACSOM bulletin and things like that, fairly, may I add, but a lot of it was because Lennon just wants you've got the ability to make something happen. Players, for all we say, they need coached and they need guided through every aspect of the game, and I completely agree that that's the modern footballer now. It's still so funny that Rodgers was getting that balance right, where he was coaching them through every aspect of their game, but also giving them that belief to flourish and do things off the cuff, as you would say. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Such as that sort of interchange there between Roberts and Sinclair. And you're absolutely right. It has been missing this year. It has, but you look back at that time and you go, it wasn't so long ago we were capable of that, and hopefully it won't be too long away in the future as well.
It wasn't, and I think it's a sign of the quality of the two players that we had there. I mean, we're playing a centre forward that day. Basically, Paddy Roberts is playing as a false nine, if I want to get into technical terms. I don't know what a false nine is, so I'm just saying it to actually make myself look decent. So he's playing as a centre forward that day, but he's dropping deep and he's dragging the centre halves deep, and he's using his creativity to bring it on. And Roberts was fantastic that season as well. I mean, that was in his second season with us, because he signed in the January 2016 under Dyler, and Roberts at this point was fantastic. And when we got him back on loan the following season, I mean, we were all over the moon to get that Paddy Roberts back, that version of Paddy Roberts back, and that's a version of Paddy Roberts that we all remember. Rather than now we're four years later. Roberts himself got in that. He scored the fourth goal this day, but in between those goals, in the 55th minute, Kieran Tierney bails up the left wing. He plays the ball into the middle, and Callum McGregor has a wee step over, and Stuart Armstrong picks up the ball about 22, 23 yards from goal, and he rifles one in at the bottom corner. And there's another player who everything he seemed to hit that season from the edge of the box went in. Yeah,
I couldn't agree more. And again, Stuart Armstrong, even that season, how many games do you think we played? 60, Kev, something like that?
60 odds, I think, yeah.
61, 62 games. Armstrong probably only started 35. I don't think he started. Right? So you're going, that's the quality of depth that we had as well. I mean, I'm completely making that up, by the way, the 35 thing, but I would say roughly he probably started more than half the games, but I don't think he started, he wasn't playing 9 out of 10 matches in a row. No danger, not from the start anyway. I certainly think he would have collected a lot of sub-appearances as well. But you think if Stuart Armstrong now would waltz into the Celtic team, he would waltz into it now 4 years on. You look at what Paddy Roberts was doing then, and again, someone that was competing with James Forrest on a regular basis for a place in the team. And they seemed to, for whatever reason, the two of them brought out the best in each other. I know a lot's made of Roberts and Tierney's relationship off the field. I actually think that the impact that Roberts had on Forrest, and probably a bit vice versa, was very, very underrated. And they definitely seem to push each other onto new levels that they maybe haven't achieved since in the case of Roberts, and that Forrest has managed to sustain because he's got to a place and carried it on. Although I'll give a wee doff the cap to Roberts. He scored a fantastic goal for Derby to help keep them up at the weekend.
But then he missed a sitter straight after it.
I know. He did miss a sitter. But the goal he scored was so reminiscent of that Paddy that you're talking about. We want to remember, the opening up the body, the curl, the technique. It was all there for him,
It's reminiscent of the goal that he scores in this game. It is actually reminiscent. To go back to the third goal, if you have a look at Callum McGregor's part in it, McGregor steps over the ball to let Armstrong go. So we can't tell if Armstrong shouted for him to do it or McGregor's just done it knowing that Armstrong's there. But then you watch McGregor run. McGregor makes a dash into the box because he knows Stuart Armstrong's going to shoot. And McGregor's made that run into the box like a centre forward to go, if that keeper spills it, I'm here.
Yes.
And again, on you go, sorry.
Sorry, just opens it up a wee bit for Armstrong as well. That's what it does. You're taking a player with you.
It's something when you see a team that's confident and comfortable in the way that they're playing. Things like that make a difference.
Totally, Kev.
It really makes a difference. And even McGregor breaking into that box, making that run, that's something we haven't seen for Callum this season either. Going, I'm going to go. Facebook user, sorry, unless you log into Facebook and day something, we can't see your name. Stuart Armstrong played 31 games in the league that year, averaged 2.74 points when he played. So he played 31 games that season,
So he was 31 out of 38 in the league, but that's, I don't know, my point was about how many times he started in those 31. And I dare say he didn't start. But what I'm trying to say is, he wasn't someone that had to be in the team week on week. It wasn't like he wasn't starting as many games as Scott Brown or Callum McGregor, put it that way. And yet you would cry out for a Stuart Armstrong. Please, it was a compliment I was trying to give him and give the strength to the squad at the time. I feel that, having a guy like Stuart Armstrong, 31 out of 38 games these days would be phenomenal, mate. He would be definitely playing 30 out of 38, provided he was fit.
Neil Francis Lennon comes in. Neil F. Lennon comes in. Are your guys aware that Celtic scored more late goals last year than the previous year under Brendan Rodgers? We're talking about the peak Brendan Rodgers side here. The Brendan Rodgers side that Neil Lennon took over was treading water, and even the second treble season we weren't as dynamic as we were the season that we're actually talking about. So yes, we do know that Neil Lennon's side scored more late goals.
I get that. I get it. I think the thing is, though, this was the culmination of the first season with Rodgers, and it was a celebration of a team that was the rip roaring, free scoring, never boring, and it was. And I think after that, it did become a bit, maybe not so much the first half of the second season, but I definitely think by the time we got towards the end of the second season, and particularly season 3, a bit pedestrian and a bit ball retention orientated, that wasn't really for the, wasn't with the same drive and dynamics that you were talking about and purposes before. It was almost sometimes keeping the ball for the sake of keeping the ball, which could at times, you can't deny it, it was a wee bit annoying to watch at times. We can't rewrite history, but it was still successful.
I mean, I think we could maybe say by the time you get to season 3 of Brendan Rodgers, he's already working his ticket. When before the AAK Athens game, when he says there's a problem with Peter Law with regards, so you know at that point, and the players can pick up on that vibe. And you've got the whole go to China thing, the Moussa Dembele thing. You've got the Boyata thing, Boyata not playing and stuff like that. So there's a lot of factors into that. And players are not stupid. Players can pick up on stuff like that when their managers working his ticket. Eh? And as me and Paul have said, we were told in that December that he was going to Leicester.
Yeah,
by somebody that worked in the media, we were told that. So when we look back on this is peak Brendan Rodgers. This is a peak Brendan Rodgers Celtic. This is an all-conquering Celtic side and one we want to see coming back. The fourth goal is Callum McGregor wins the ball in the middle of the park and he plays it to Paddy Roberts. So Paddy Roberts, left foot, goes onto the edge of the box and curls a cracking goal into the top corner. And what I love about this goal, it's the joy on his face when he goes to the Celtic end and just stands there with his arms outstretched.
You just stole it, Kev, from me.
Sorry, mate. Right, on you go.
No, it's all right. It's all right. That was exactly. It's so funny. That just shows you that we both picked up on that the exact same way. It was exactly a celebration. Do you know what I liked about it? It was a bit of callousness in it. That's. I think I like that. I mean, I try to be gallous myself, probably, but misled. But some of these guys can do it with real ability, and I like to see a wee bit of callousness. And remember then he was what, 20, 21?
Yes. He's only 24 now, so he was 20.
All right, 20 then. 20 just away at Tynecastle. Atmospheres that, let's be honest, you don't get many grounds in England, especially in the circuit that he'd operated in at that point, which was really just one season with Fulham. I think he'd been at a sort of half a regular at. He wasn't used to hostile atmospheres like Tynecastle, albeit he'd been there before with us. But I just think at 20 to be doing something was brilliant. Looking at the euphoria in the stand, you're winning the league title. You've played a part in it, and he's just. I just think that's callousness. There's a wee bit. We need to get more callous. I like that.
We like parallel universes in this. Well, I do anyway. On this podcast, eh? And do you think there's a parallel universe where Paddy Roberts is still at Celtic and is not the player now who's only started 23 games since he left Celtic 4 years ago?
I think there is. I think there's a huge argument for it. I don't know. I think you need to remember as well, when Paddy Roberts was at Celtic, he was getting sponsorship deals. I think it was Adidas that he had, which was out of this world. He was rated so highly. It was almost like Kieran Tierney was his wee brother sort of thing. It was like Tierney was looking up to Paddy Roberts like this icon. How far removed that would be now, of course. Well,
there was a joke. There was a joke here at Paddy Roberts was staying with Kieran Tierney's mom. They had bunk beds, eh?
I love all that. But I think if Roberts had stayed, firstly, he would have played a heck of a lot more than 24 games you're referring to in the last 4 years. I find that a bit tragic. We're talking about Scott Sinclair losing confidence, maybe not the same player he was, but still has 9 and 33 for Preston this year. And you look at where Paddy Roberts' careers took him since Celtic, and were you getting the right advice? Did Celtic maybe just not push the boat out? We've seen that with enough transfers as well. But in the parallel universe, Kev, I think he would be arguably in the Premier League already right now, playing regular football for a top half team. Not top 6, but top half.
Well, let's go even further. If future Paddy Roberts jumped out the stand and jumped on that Paddy Roberts that's standing there celebrating, he would probably tell him, stay here.
Yes.
Stay here, didn't do. Right, there has been some injuries and all that with Paddy Roberts. He's went to Girona, he's went to Middlesbrough, he's went to Norwich. He's been at Middlesbrough twice, and now he's at Derby County. But for a player of his quality to only have started 23 games since he's left Celtic, that is really, for me, it's quite heartbreaking actually. And he's just left Derby County now because he was there on loan, and he's still got a year left on his Man City contract. One of the most interesting things when I was doing some research about this, Paddy Roberts has only played 20 professional games for his parent club. So of all the games, I think he's played about 100 games all in, but he's only played 20 games for his parent club, 19 for Fulham and 1 for Man City.
Wow. I mean, that is frightening. And I think as well, I mean, he must have signed the longest contract in the history of the world in Man City, because I'm sure he's had a year left since I've ever known who Paddy Roberts was. There's always been this one more year on his Man City contract. Do you know what I mean?
I know, and it's like, even when I looked up that last night, it says he's still got a year left on that Man City contract. I'm going, he has been injured during that period, but you have a look at the periods when you actually have a look on transfermarket.com and that where I get this information from. There's a load of games he just gone on the bench, never gets off the bench. He seems to be in a lot of the squads and doesn't come on. Then when he does come on, he comes on the 81st minute, 79th minute, stuff like that. They seem to throw him on if they need a wee bit of magic to win games. He's actually played the last 8 or 9 games for Derby County, so that could maybe be a destination for him. But it's always the question: would we take him? I would take him back. I would take him back if we were getting that Tynecastle Paddy Roberts.
I would take him back in a second. I still would. I mean, I don't think it's the end of the world if we get Paddy Roberts. So we don't get Paddy Roberts, Kev. You froze at mine, by the way, so I don't know if it's my connection or yours, by the way, just so you know.
Somebody else's just came in, but I'm fine here, and I didn't know what it is.
I know you're back alive, mate. It was just in case it was at mine. I didn't know. But I would take him back, to be honest with you. I know there's a lot of romanticism involved in it, but football is romantic. I also believe there's one heck of a talent in there. And would Paddy Roberts have done as well in the last 18 months under Neil Lennon? Probably not. It probably would have been a similar story. We need to be honest with that. And I think under someone like Eddie Howe, I mean, I would take the chance because I think you could get him for buttons as well, to be honest with you. I think it's well established he's never going to be a Manchester City player. There's a good relationship between the clubs. 1.5 million. Bring him home. I wouldn't be campaigning for it, but I would be all for it if it were to happen as well, if I'm being completely honest. I've not got a bus for Paddy Roberts, put it that way.
Obviously, it's not first choice, but if he came back, we would welcome coming back because he's the type of boy and the type of talent which is born to play for Celtic. That's me. So we scored a 5th goal that day, and it was on the 84th minute. Sinclair burst into the box and wins a penalty kick. It's a soft penalty kick. It is a soft penalty. I'm not going to deny that. But stuff that happened. It's a nice penalty kick as well. So that season, right, Scott Sinclair wins 4 Player of the Year awards. He wins the 2 at Celtic, the Players Player of the Year and the Writers Player of the Year. He left Celtic only January last year. It felt like he left Celtic actually ages ago.
That's so true.
When you get round to that, but it was only last January that he left Celtic, and I think this must be a record. Somebody will maybe come in and tell me something different. He never lost a trophy any time he was in Scotland. Every trophy he went for it, he won.
No, of course, that makes perfect sense.
He left with 10 medals and 10 medals in 3.5 seasons.
That's animal material. I love that.
That is frightening. That is absolutely frightening. Anytime I see that, I'm like, wow, that is what a thing to say. I never lost a competition in Scotland.
Yeah, him and Brendan Rodgers can both say that, can't they?
Aye, which is quite amazing. He also says in 2017, and this goes back to what I was saying with the number of clubs that he had played. He also says, "I've been with so many clubs. I think here I feel like I've found a home." He says that at the end of that season, and I think that showed. And for me, he's welcome back at Celtic Park anytime as Scott Sinclair.
Come on, yeah, I think that goes without saying, Kev. If we're being honest, I think he was someone that, because his form or his contribution in games, and he was such a noticeable player when he was on his game because it was electric when you were watching him. Do you know what I mean? It was fast-paced, high-tempo dribbling, emphatic finishes like we've discussed tonight, brilliant trickery. And obviously you associate with winning football matches and trophies as well. And then towards the end, just that uncertainty in his game. It was such a contrast from where he was that I think it's easy to then remember that Scott Sinclair because you were in shock at the difference between the two versions, if you like. Mm-hmm. But believe you me, when we look back and he's retired, he's long retired, and you're looking at the season, DVDs, but it should be on the Celtic app that I've already pitched on here before. And you're looking at the old matches, and you see Scott Sinclair in full flow. You'll go, he was one heck of a player for us and you know what? For a far more considerable period of time than you might think right now. He played every game. He had a lot of onus on him to deliver in the big games as well, and he did so. I mean, I always remember there was one that he scored. I think it was Inverness away, and he just sort of dribbled, they backed off him a bit, and he just curls into the far corner like he's just stroked it like he was even trying. It was, and he just walked through doing like hit that with his hands. You're like, that's a guy who's brimming with confidence, and you know, I think we focus on those memories than you know, the hesitant Scotty Sinclair that maybe crept into his game a wee bit later.
Maravchik25 comes in on the comments and he says Scotty Sinclair got Celtic. We got Scotty Sinclair as well after he got that racist abuse at Ibrox, which seems never to get spoke about, especially recently. And the Green Brigade done the display in that for him. That was really one of the most touching moments I saw during Scott Sinclair's time at Celtic as well. He got us, we got him, and I think we were lucky to actually see Scott Sinclair at that peak. I think we saw Scott Sinclair at the greatest season that he's ever going to have as a player. And when Scott Sinclair retires, he will say Celtic are the greatest club that he's ever played for.
I think so. I think that you've just nailed it.
Right. Got a couple of questions to ask you as well, right? If you were having a best 11 of the quadruple treble teams, would Paddy and Scott Sinclair get into it?
Paddy can't get in it. James Forrest has to be picked ahead of him. He's contributed far more to the quadruple treble than what Roberts did. Scott Sinclair is a must for me to be in it for the two really brilliant years. How many goals did Sinclair leave Celtic with having scored? 90 or something like that?
No, it's 60 odds, I think.
60 odds, sorry.
I think it's 60 odds off the top of my head.
He's averaging 20 a season in his 3 years. I mean, we can't believe that out the quadruple treble 11. Like, no way.
Definitely no not. Way. I agree with you. I agree with you. Scott Sinclair's a definite to get in the quadruple treble 11. Paddy Roberts, as you say, you've got Forrest there, and it's debatable. I would need to actually think about the formation and all of that, but Sinclair's a definite for me. I think
with Sinclair as well, look how much we've not replaced him. Look how difficult it's been to replace him now. Moyes contributed a lot more goals than I think I was aware of this season. I remember we had a debate on the ACSOM bulletin about El Yunusa, whether we should keep him permanently and things. And I remember one of you said he'd scored 14 goals. I thought, well, fair enough. Actually, in a terrible team this year, a team that's having a terrible time of it, that's one heck of a return. But it's still nowhere near the numbers that Scott Sinclair was doing. And I think, and it's not from the same position either, because Moyes moved about his role as well in the team. I certainly think that left side, we have never replaced Scott Sinclair at all as effectively. And, you wonder if we let him go at a time that was maybe too early. I mean, I wonder if it was the right time to let him go. Because I just think someone with that experience, that knowledge and that ability, if we've not got an adequate replacement lined up, why let him go?
In the last 18 months, I don't think he would have helped us where we are at this precise moment in time. I don't think he would have helped us, and I'm actually glad that he left when he did.
He's left ahead.
I'm glad he's away and he's not going to be tarnished.
Being
about this season. Going to ask you another question. That 11 that day: Gordon, Lustig, Simonovic, Boyata, Tierney, Armstrong, Brown, McGregor, Sinclair, Roberts, and Forrest. If they played the team that played at Ibrox a couple of weeks ago, and I'm talking about, so McGregor plays McGregor, Brown plays Brown, but they're 4 years younger.
Oh, right. Celtic v Celtic, sort of.
Celtic v Celtic. How many goals would that team take off the current Celtic rabble?
I think you're looking at a similar scoreline at Tynecastle. I think you're looking at 4 or 5-0. I mean, there's no way that current incumbent of my team are going to score against that Rodgers first season team. No way. Boyata and Jozo, whether it be them two, whether it be Kolo, whether it be Sviatchenko at the back, would be able to contain an uninterested Edward all day, every day. Not a problem at all. and that unit of a back four with Lustig and Tierney, what also they offered going forward, but also strictly defenders. I think people forget that as well with those two. Total defenders. The interchange in the midfield would be bamboozling, perhaps a slightly aging Scott Brown, in fairness to him. And then, yeah, I mean, up front, I just think, you bring Scott Sinclair coming in for one wing, Paddy Roberts, false nine. This is without Dembele and Griffiths, I'm saying.
I know.
Fire them in it, and you're going 7 or 8. That's how much there's been a difference, by the way. That's how much that team's been allowed to declare. I'm going to get myself wound up here now, Kev. We're having a good show. That is crazy how much you can be in a position of strength and let something just fall off a cliff where you just wouldn't back any of these guys now to replace the ones of old. And even though some of them are the same people.
I know.
And yet you've got to progress.
Terry Nato Rowe comes in and says, "Don't look back in anger, Russell. Don't look back in anger."
I like it, mate. I like it. I know. I'm trying to stay level-headed, my man. Fair dues.
And I mean, I think I'm going to quote Ian Brown here. Don't be sad it ended. Be thankful it happened. I think that's a good way. Right. One last question before we go into the music. One last question. Would that 11 beat the current Rangers team?
Oh, come on.
Hands down. Hands down.
Yeah, I don't think there's a debate there at all. I don't think that.
No debate whatsoever.
You look at their best players this year, and I think whilst Tavernier, I remember saying, I used to say to my Rangers supporting mate back then, at that very season, I wanted Celtic to sign James Tavernier. I promise you, he'd back me up on that. He was like, "You what?" I think we should just throw in a bid. Use our skin. At the time, obviously we've heard that for a million years. I don't get too focused on all that nonsense. But I would have took him. I
wouldn't take Tavernier over Lustig any day of the week. I wouldn't take Tavernier over a one-legged Lustig with a blindfold on and a postman's hat. Nah. Be gone with you. Be gone with that nonsense, Russell.
Right, anyway, what my point was, in all the key positions, we had far better players in our lineup than they did. Although the right back option I probably would have took. There we go. I'll sell my soul to the devil.
Oh, we need an exorcism here.
A player's a player, mate.
Somebody call a priest, quick.
No.
We're going to move on to the music for that time. It's not an extended show this week. We should have told the audience. Because there's other folk in the studio, so we're going to try and fit it into about an hour and 5 minutes.
So we'll still be here next Tuesday.
Philip DeMarco, I don't know if he's, because there's some strange chat going on tonight. I ken Russell doesn't look at the chat, but
no.
Fuzzy picture, slow talking and funny hairdos. I'm feeling it. I don't know. Everything seems quite fine at this end.
I know you're freezing all the time, Kev, but it's all good. You can hear you absolutely crystal clear. That's all that matters. You've right now got a frozen big smile on your face. It's brilliant.
Which is actually quite weird because I'm actually sitting right on top of the router, so I know as if I'm sitting in the kitchen anywhere.
Mate, I deal with broadband every day. There's no rhyme or reason for half of it, honestly.
I think it's just trying to tell me I need to go down to the studio. I think it's trying to tell me that. We'll look at the music for that week. And this really shows you how music's changed since we spoke, right? Me and Russell had a conversation saying that we're likely to struggle the later it goes in music because music's complete and utterly rubbish now.
I struggled again.
The charts this week. Let me read this to you. Ed Sheeran is number 1 with The Shape of You. He's number 2 with Galway Girl. He's number 5 with Castle on the Hill. He's number 12 with Perfect. He's at number 19 with New Man. He's also at number 22, 23, 27, 28, 33 and 35. And he's got bloody 3 albums in the top 10.
That's insane.
What's that all about? That just shows you how streaming has changed the way music is.
I think Ed Sheeran was the biggest threat to Brendan Rodgers' Invincibles that season, mate, to be honest with you.
Hey, when you
actually record that. But I mean,
when you see
Sorry,
that,
mate, I mean, I just think when you're going through the charts, like you rightfully say, that was, I mean, Ed Sheeran's name was standing out like a sore thumb, and it is becoming like you go, some of the modern era, you want to talk about the football, so it's brilliant, and then you go to the music and you're going, what am I going to do here? And I thought today, I'm just going to go for an album I don't know, and I'm going to listen to it all day, and I listened to it twice, start to finish, which is one of the beauties of SCREAMACELICA, because these shows are, the beauty of them is they're not topical, they're timeless, because you can watch this show at any time, and you know that date in football happened that we're talking about in the game. The album is going to be there for you to listen to at any time. So if you actually embrace the experience and maybe listen to one of the albums Kev said, you know, or I suggest, it can be quite fun. Because the Big Zemo Park album, I didn't even know they were still making music in 2017. They were about as credible a bunch as I could see on what was a depressing chart, Kev. And the album was okay. I mean, there was moments that were, I thought the first track and the third track were outstanding. Really good melodies, but at times he's trying to bring like government stuff and all that in and like make political statements, but singing like a comedian at times. And I'm like, it doesn't all work. And he's got that horrible Biffy Clyro thing about him, Kev, right? Where he tries to fit too many syllables into too short a space of time. You know, like that Biffy Clyro song. It's like, how do you feel about things today? I'm like, there was no room for all that, mate. There wasn't enough room. And Max Zemo Park on this album are just a wee bit guilty of straining to using too many big words that aren't necessary. But in terms of the melodies and a lot of the songs, and if you thought that could be listened to in the background, whilst maybe a couple would stand out for you, I thought the album was worth listening to.
We really need some sound effects for this, and we'll have a wee ding ding. Listen to that one. We really need some sound effects for that. That's
I think whilst why don't we start to giving an album a rating every week, Kev? That we do.
On we go, fire away.
Right, I'm gonna give it 6.5 out of 10. I'll start at a point just so we get right into the nitty-gritty for the weeks going on.
Do we want to do 10? We just do it out of 9 because we didn't like 10s. So we'll just do it out of 9. So is that a 5.5 out of 9?
That's good patter. That is good patter. Aye. So yeah, well, if we want to do it out of 9, yeah, we'll do it out of 9. Let's scream ourselves.
Aye, we'll do it out of 9.
5.5 out of 9. But worth the listen if you've liked, particularly if you've liked any of their older stuff. I think they've still used the same sort of gimmicky sort of sound bites that Max Zemo Park you would associate with Our Velocity and Books and Boxes at times. I do think that is better material than some of the stuff I heard in the new album. But yeah, I did. I mean, see when the first track started, and that is, what is it? What have we done to you to deserve this? As soon as it started, I thought, I'm digging this. This is good. And I did enjoy that song. And then the second one, not so much. But the third track, I cannot remember the name to save my life. I thought that was really, really good. But then they've got songs like, you know, I'll Be Around. And you're like, that's not reinventing the wheel, Kev. You know, from a band that's been doing a lot of lyrics, like, as I'm saying, I'm picking up on listening to this about right-wing politics, about people's sort of vocabulary and how you say things, and using a lot of grammar, shall we say, right? You know, they played Scrabble a few times in their life, these boys. And then you've got a chorus just saying, I'll be around, which is not reinventing the wheel for me. And I just think was a wee bit like, why don't you just call the song, this is a filler track on the album? Just call it that, mate. Do you know what I mean? Because stuff like that, I find that a wee bit lazy, especially with the effort they went to with a lot of the lyrics on the rest of the CD. God, it sounds like I'm panning it, but I actually didn't mind it. I did quite enjoy it.
I must admit, I listened to it as well. And I did listen to it. I'm not a massive Max Zemo Park fan, and I struggled to get to the end of the album. I did struggle to get to the end of the album, I must admit. I did like the first track. The first track had a wee, like, disco. So I'll give it a 3 out of 9. I will give it a 3 out of 9.
Wow.
Like you, I was a bit worried when I started going through the charts of this week. I mean, I actually thought you were going to go for the Beauty and the Beast soundtrack, which was at number 8 that week. Then there was 2 other, like, because it's because it's download charts. Fleetwood Mac with Rumours is in the charts, and so's Bob Marley with Legend.
Yeah,
It was so we could do that. But what I was really pleased about at number 16 was the Jesus and Mary Chain with Damage and Joy, their 7th album and their first album in 19 years.
Yes.
It gives me a chance to talk about the Mary Chain if having to go back to 1985. Which is brilliant. This was their first album in 19 years, and it's an album that I really listened to quite a bit round about this period. And it's a great album. It's an album that's made up of like it's a mixture of new songs, solo stuff, and songs for other bands that they were involved in, and they basically just gave them a Mary Chain take on them.
Cool.
There's one song called All Things Past, which was originally used on the NBC series Heroes. Did you watch Heroes? That was a superhero. It was a superhero like program. I think it ran for about 4 series or something like that. And strangely enough, one of the main characters, the actor, the actress, I don't think we're allowed to say that anymore. I think they're all actors. Hayden Panettiere was that's who I named my daughter after. Her name's Hayden.
Wow.
And that's where we first saw the name. That's where me and my wife first saw the name. Hayden for a girl. Hayden for a girl. So did you know that she was also married to Vladimir Klitschko? She was Vladimir Klitschko's wife.
Wow. That is good trivia. You've always got stuff that is up your sleeve. That's good. That is. I found that out today. I went, that's a bit weird. What I like about the Mary Chain is a lot of folk have tried to be the Jesus and Mary Chain and utterly failed, because they make the simple sound absolutely great. And today, everybody goes today that Motown noise, Velvet Underground stuff it's easy to do. The only band that ever come close is Scott Howe comes in. Las Vegas have got that Jesus and Mary Chain vibe. They're the only band that ever got close to how good that the Mary Chain actually did it. But even then, Las Vegas, for me, have got their own take on it. Las Vegas have got a maybe more soulful take on the Mary Chain's rough and ready Jim Reid like vocals. For me, so you've got the Barrowlands and you go down for the Barrowlands, you've got the Barrowlands Park and you've got the walkway where it's got all the names of the bands that have played at the Barrowlands. You ever been in that part, no? Obviously, haven't. It's a great place. I've been walking back into the town centre for Celtic Park a couple of times, and I go and actually see it and have a look at gigs that have been at and the dates. It's got all the dates of the gigs. And I go and have a wee look, and sometimes my memory gets jogged. I went, I was at that gig. I forgot all about that. It's fantastic. I reckon there should actually be a statue of the Jesus and Mary Chain in there. I do think there should, because I think they're one of the greatest Scottish bands ever. They're one of the most influential Scottish bands ever. And they actually started the whole creation thing. If you didn't have the Jesus and Mary Chain, you're not going to have Oasis later on. You're not going to have Ride. You're not going to have these bands that come out of Creation Records, because the Mary Chain actually made that happen. Alan McGee got lucky with the fact that the Mary Chain were his pals. And like Bobby Gillespie ended up playing the drums, and you ended up getting like the primal scream out of that as well. So it was Bobby Gillespie, just to be clear, he was back in the band for this new album, the first one they've released in 19 years?
No, Gillespie was only in the first album when he was standing up down the Mo Tucker playing the drums. This album basically came on the back of them getting back together for them doing Psycho Candy at the Barrowlands, because the two Reid brothers, never spoke to each other for years. There was an utter falling out. Alcohol and other things got in the way of the relationship, shall we say, and they never spoke to each other for years. I went to see this is 1997 Barrowlands that they supported the Primal Scream. The Jesus and Mary Chain supported the Primal Scream.
That's mad.
And I went to see the Primal Scream that night, and the brothers couldn't look at each other on stage.
Really?
They were late on stage, and it was quite obvious that Jim Reid was worse for wear, shall we say. Because you could actually tell that the road crew were looking for him, and seemingly he was in Baird's next door when the road crew were trying to find him. And at that point, they broke up. They had just released a great album called Monkey, and they broke up just after that. But then I went to see them doing the... I'm going to laugh there because Philip DeMarco comes in and goes, 1997, I was in jail in Benidorm. What a random comment that is. I was in jail in Benidorm.
Do you know who that is? That is Del Piero, boy.
Del Piero, I know
Twitter. Yeah, he is a legend. He cracks me up.
So the brothers got back together for Psycho Candy at the Barrowlands, and that was a fantastic gig that night. They played 2 nights at the Barrowlands, one of the loudest gigs I've ever been at. Brilliant. And this album came out of it. So I'm looking forward. The Mary Chain are playing at I think they're playing at the Bandstand this year, if it happens. Aye, so the Primal Scream and the Mary Chain are both playing at the Bandstand this year, I think. But one of the... Obviously, Russell, me and you have both got links to Stirling. And one of the myths that always kicked about the Jesus and Mary Chain was that they used to spend their summer holidays at a granny's in Cowie. Seemingly they had relations in Cowie that they used to go and spend their holidays with. Seemingly it's a load of rubbish, but it's one of those little myths that I want to be true.
Who comes up with that story? I don't know.
I didn't ken, but I just could picture Jim and William Reid. For those who know the area, like we come from Cowie's, a wee mining village, and I could actually just picture them walking about this wee mining village in the late 70s, early 80s, all dressed in black. The first time I saw the Mary Chain was on that programme called The Word, and I'd heard of them, but the first time I saw them was a programme called The Word, and they were playing a song called Reverence. And you see a band from Glasgow making this hell of a racket on a primetime Channel 4 programme, and he's basically screaming, I want to die like Jesus Christ, I want to die on a bed of spikes. And that song got into the top 10 of the charts. Makes me want to spew across Ed Sheeran and all of that. I mean, a song as political and as what rock music should be, a punch in the face, getting into the top 10 when you actually see that download chart for this week, it makes you cringe. It actually does.
It is. It's going to be one of the balancing acts we've got for the show going forwards, Kev. Is, whilst the 90s had sadder times, a lot of the time with the league table and things, the music was easy pickings when we did that Cadeti game, mate.
Oh, and then brilliant.
And then you're looking at 2017, peak Rodgers era. The football's brilliant, but the music is dreadful. I think we might have to just keep sort of alternating between the latter world and the earlier world that we can sort of relate to.
Well, I think we've actually got hope with the fact that Fleetwood Mac and Bob Marley were in the charts at that time. So hopefully, we could maybe actually do something like that.
Well, I kind of did that last week with George Michael. I kind of was like, I know it's the greatest hits and it wasn't his era, but the flip side was, let's just talk about someone who's actually good.
Donny Boy 67 comes in. The first time I seen the Chain, they played for half an hour with the backs to the audience, then walked off. Awesome. I don't know if anybody who watches us or Russell, have you seen Creation Stories, the story Alan McGee, which was recently on Sky? Well, basically McGee and the Mary Chain at that time just were... The Mary Chain prepared Alan McGee for Oasis.
Yeah.
I think
makes sense.
It does make sense. Right, Russell, that's an hour and 5 minutes. We'll need to get out of here to let the studio get took over by some professional people. So thanks to everybody in the comments for joining in. Thanks to Russell. Thanks for me for turning up this week. I need to say fair play to myself for turning up. And remember, everybody, calm down.